Good evening. This is Map Show, and thanks for Rion just pointing out that I was muted there for a moment. It's exciting to be part of something that's growing, and I trust that tonight's message is going to be just for you and I. And when I say you and I, for Rion, you and I. Tonight's message is all about the fact that you are valuable. I'm going to be sharing this message with you, and I trust that if you are tuning in this evening, please share your comments with us. We'd love to engage with you, answer any questions. At the same time, Rion and I are going to have a dialogue, and we're going to talk about this subject, that you are valuable. Now, you'll notice in the heading for this session, I've separated those two words and to say you are valuable. And anybody who has attended the talks that I've done, you will know that I love to assign words to letters. And I trust that because this is a 5-letter word, you're going to remember it and find it easy to share with others. Of course, the first letter is the letter V. And the aspect of value for me, and I'm sure, Rion, you've already guessed what this word is. It's the fact that you and I have the ability to see visions. And when I say see visions, I'm not talking about the kind of visions that perhaps people have when they hallucinate and they see scary things sitting at the end of their bed at night, or they have these other imaginary moments of despair or whatever it might be. I'm talking about the ability to see the invisible future and to literally see it unfold and become a reality. Not only have we been given this incredible gift or this incredible ability to be able to have vision, but we are also the result of vision. You know, I've read in the basic instructions before leaving Earth, you know, that book. I've read inside there that we were envisaged, we were seen, we were thought of before the foundations of the earth. So not only are we able to have vision, but we are the product of vision. And for me, that is incredibly reassuring. If I am the product of vision and I am so intricately woven together and made unique in all kinds of ways, then there is value. What's interesting about value is that the more unique something is, the greater its value. And of course, those of you who have tuned into Map for Life over the years will know that you are a one of a kind. And I truly believe that you are born for a purpose that the world cannot do without. So, Rion, you and everybody tuning in this evening has the ability to see a better future than what currently exists. Not only do we have the ability to see a better future, we are able to see the future differently. We don't need to perpetuate the same systems that have always been there. We can start something completely new. We can begin a new language. We can begin a new way of building things. We can do all kinds of stuff that has never existed before. That, for me, is value beyond measure. Mm-hmm. The letter A has to tie in with the fact that we are abundantly provided for. Now, I've been thinking about this for quite some time. And I must say the concept of abundance has eluded me to some extent. Until recently, I began to realize that here I am speaking my words to you freely. They come flowing out of my mouth. I mean, it doesn't cost me anything to speak. I'm able to convey words that can get people to stop, to start, to move, to stand. I mean, if I had asked you to raise your hand and you did, I mean, that's the power of words. When you speak to other people, you're able to communicate a message. You can speak using this technology. We can use these words and cross the borders of every country without passport, without visa, and we can speak to people and influence them. That's the power of words. So we are abundantly provided for. When I think about abundance, I think about the fact that right now, Rion took a breath. I saw him take a breath, but it didn't influence my ability to breathe. And every time I breathe out, there's some tree saying, thank you very much. And it's taking in the carbon dioxide that I breathe out, and it releases oxygen back for me. I mean, there's this wonderful synergistic relationship, ensuring that I'm constantly and always abundantly provided for. I think about the confusion that we find ourselves in today. We think that, I have to get the supermarket to deliver my groceries. Otherwise, I'm going to starve. In order to get those groceries, I have to find a job so that I can earn money so that I can buy them. And I was thinking today as I was walking around the neighborhood, every foot that I put down was on food providing soil. I mean, it's just fascinating. There's so much soil just in my neighborhood that we could plant enough in the spare soil next to our houses and on the side of our roads to feed our community and the next one. Not talking about all of the soil beyond the city limits. I mean, it's just incredible how abundantly we're provided for. Yet we don't appreciate always that right there at the soles of our feet is everything that we need to be able to plant a seed or sow a seed and expect a harvest. For me, this is abundance. I look around at the trees. Everything I need to build my home, if I choose, is right there. And what's the beauty about it is I can plant another tree and another tree and another tree. In fact, I could plant trees now for all my children to be able to build their houses and more. And just think about it for a moment. How many seeds could you sow in a day? Even if you took 1 minute to sow each seed, that would be 3,600 seeds, I guess. In how many hours? 60 per minute. I suppose in 60 hours. 1,000 seeds a day. If we did it for 8 hours, 480 trees that we could plant every single day. Surely that speaks of abundance. I've got a tree that grows outside of my window. Rion, and this tree, when I first planted it, it produced no seed. For 3 years, there was no seed produced. But finally, I saw the first little flowers. And that first year, believe it or not, I actually went and I plucked all the pods off and I counted them. And there were 54 pods of seed on the tree in its first year. In the second year, there were over 250. In the third year, there were over 800. The last time I took the trouble to count, there were over 6,000 pods. And there's going to be twice as many this year, I'm sure. And in each one of those pods, there's at least 6 seeds. I mean, that talks to me. I mean, that's 48,000 seeds that it's producing every year without ever stopping. That is abundance beyond belief. And you and I have been abundantly provided for. This is valuable. I look at the letter L and I think of something that's incredibly valuable to us, but also makes us valuable. And that is the word life, life itself. The fact that you and I have a heart that beats, lungs that breathe. I mean, we are living. This is a gift that we've been given. The sad thing is that most people are simply existing and they're waiting for other people to do something so that their life can change. I was speaking to one of our younger members earlier this week, and I asked, are you deployed or employed? And her response was unemployed. And I said, what are you doing being unemployed? You know, that's a mindset that somebody else has the keys to my future. I'm often asked, Glenn, surely, there's some people that when I talk about being deployed, they suddenly think, I can't be employed. No, let me put it like this. When you are deployed, you can be deployed within an organization, in a business, in a company, in a school, wherever it might be, in the community. You can be deployed anywhere, any territory, any domain. The difference between somebody who is deployed and somebody who is employed is the source of their provision. A person who is deployed is able to say no to something that contradicts their beliefs and values within an organization. But if the company that I'm working for is my source, there's going to come a time that the company is going to ask me to do something that is opposed to my beliefs and values. But because they are my source, I will bend my rules that I live by so that I can get the paycheck at the end of the month. But if that company is not my source, I can be deployed within it because my source is outside. And so deployment is more about your source of provision, which is accessed by faith. So you and I can step into life as opposed to being just in existence. We talk about that in Map for Life, having this this global pandemic called directionless existence. People just getting up in the morning to do what they did yesterday and the day before. I think we have the ability to live life to the full. How do we do that? We live so that we die empty. I mean, it sounds like a contradiction. To live to the full, you have to empty yourself out. You have to give everything that you have. And so I think life is one of the most valuable things that you have within you. And when you begin to live life, you become exceedingly valuable. The letter U, of course, my first thought was unique. But I'm not going to use the word unique this evening, although I've already spoken it. I'm going to use the word unlimited, unrestricted. Now, I can hear people already saying, but Glenn, there are rules and regulations and religions that we have to follow. Surely there are restrictions. Well, I've spent a lot of time wondering if there is a judge or a lawyer or a magistrate or a lawmaker, as they call the politicians, God help us, they call them lawmakers. If there is one of those people that has the ability to put in place a law that's going to overcome a principle like gravity. We can have a parliamentary discussion and come to a resolution as a country that in South Africa there is no longer gravity. It's not going to affect us. I can assure you that regulation is not going to fly. It's not going to fly at all. We can write a law in place that says we will not die, we will live forever. And our body at some stage is going to reach its end. And so, yes, there are regulations defined by man. There are rules that are in place. There are religions that people follow. And from that perspective, there are restrictions. The consequence of all these rules and regulations is that we become known just like a box. You know, I was saying earlier this morning to somebody, we have an education system that's like a production line. And the next one comes and it drops off, and the next one comes and it drops off, and the next one comes and it drops off. And at the end, we all look like a box. And when people ask us, who are you? We say, I'm an engineer, I'm an accountant, what is my difference? But it's just a box with a label. What's really important is the value that is inside. And I find myself so often defining myself by the box that society and that I have placed myself in. And I think it's time to start looking within. Miles Monroe said to me the last time I saw him in the flesh, he looked directly at me and he said this, he said, your future does not lie ahead of you, like everybody says. He says, your future lies within you. That means we need to open this box. Somebody said just recently, I was listening to a documentary, two guys were having a dialogue, and the one guy said to the other, where's the tiger you were when we were in primary school? So he said, the tiger is still there, but it's in a box, and all that people now see is the box. I think it's time for us to get out the box, to dig for the treasure inside, reveal the true you. And then lastly, I want to use, for the letter E, I want to use this word. And that is Rion. You are the exception. You're not the rule. You are the exception. And I am the exception. And for those of you who are listening this evening, you are the exception. Dr. Yona, there is no other one like you. You are an exception. And not only are you an exception, but you are therefore exceptional. I mean, if I keep comparing myself to other people, I remove my exceptional elements. And I think a lot of people have seen their difference as a curse instead of a blessing. Your unique DNA sets you apart from every other person on the planet. And for me, that means being an exception is extremely valuable. Of course, if I was looking at the E for me, back in my earlier years, it would be Glenn the engineer. And as an engineer, you didn't like exceptions. You wanted everything to follow the rules. I mean, you needed a formula. You wanted to apply a formula to everything to solve problems. In fact, it was there were always rules, and there would be some sort of footnote then to warn us about the exception to the rule. And the exception to the rule was the danger, the one to look out for. Well, I want to tell you that you are an exception to the rule. Stop trying to conform to other people's expectations of you. Be who you were born to be. I love that book by John Mason. He says, born an original, die a copy. That was the title of this book. And on the cover, Rion, there was a picture of an apple, and a wedge had been cut out the apple. And what was inside were the grains of an orange. I mean, it's quite a fascinating picture to look at, because you looked and you saw the apple, but you also saw the orange. But the orange was hidden away. I thought it was a beautiful depiction of the way we cloak ourselves, the way we label, or the way society labels us, the way we shrink and hide away in this false image, almost like the mask that we were wearing in the year 2020 and 2021. We wore a mask that was visible, but all the years prior to 2020 and all the years since, we wear a more serious mask, and that's the invisible mask, the pretend. You know, I am Glenn the Pretender. I think there was a song that Freddie Mercury sang. Was it called the Great Pretender or something? I've no idea what the words of that song are. I just remember the title right now. But that's who we are. We're the Great Pretender. We're pretending to be something that we're not. I'm sure, as I'm sharing this message with you, and Rion and I are going to discuss it now, I'm sure that there are many other words that connect with these 5 letters, VALUE. Vision, abundance, life, unlimited, and exceptional. For me, to make you valuable, in that statement is the word able. Now, you and I already have the ability. I think we are, and when I say we have the ability, we have inborn gifts and talents that have perfectly prepared us for our purpose, so that we can pursue it with passion and perseverance for life. We have that ability in us. But somehow, somewhere along the line, we have been hoodwinked into thinking that we have no ability, and we need to spend the rest of our life gaining ability. And we can learn a lot. We can learn a tremendous amount. We've got this ability right over here. We've got the ability to adapt, to learn, to pick up new skills. Yes. But I think that if we overlook the gifts and talents we already have, we're going to be learning skills that are not aligned with our natural gifts and talents. And as a consequence, we're going to miss the mark. And we're going to get to the end of our journey, and we're going to arrive at those pearly gates. I'm not too sure if they are pearly gates, but my dad used to talk about the pearly gates. I wish I could talk to him. Maybe he can tell me, yes, they are. Or maybe he's got another term for them now. But, when we arrive there, somehow, somewhere deep down inside all of us, we want to hear these words: well done. Well done. You did what I sent you to do. You did what I deployed you to do. You did what I commissioned you to do. And I think if there is such a thing as a commission, a mandate, a purpose, then it will be uncovered through our gifts and talents, our natural ability. Thank you so much for listening to the chat, Rion. You've been such a good audience member, intently listening. And this is the nice part about this evening session, is that you can't disappear for a moment or two. You've got to be fully focused. And I could see, as you were talking, that there were many other ideas coming to mind as I was sharing. So I'm looking forward to your insights and comments maybe on what I've shared this evening.
Yes, no, thank you again. Yeah, When you talk about vision, if we talk about the V, you said a lot of stuff, but the vision is so important, and I think you mentioned the word meaningless, or what directionless existence. But I mean, how many people, and I've been talking to a lot of people in let's say the past year, and a lot of people are purposeless and visionless. But it's like we made peace with it, It's like we're not sure whether there's really a purpose or something. So let's just do what the rest of the people do, and just keep on being purposeless. And I actually think the V is very important, to have a vision, and to not only have a vision, but in Map for Life we talk about vision boards as well. And it's important to keep your vision alive in front of you. And I have seen, life can just catch you, and before you know it, you forgot your purpose, you forgot your vision, and you just move ahead visionless. And somewhere along the line, you just realize, I've been running for a few days, weeks, months, maybe even years, maybe even decades without my vision. I can't even remember my vision. And I think, when you talk about I am valuable, the first thing is I am valuable because, like we always say in Map for Life, you've got a unique purpose. But I also want to say you've got a unique vision. And, vision is something you work towards. A company can have a vision. A person can have a vision. Purpose is something you don't reach. It's something you live by for the rest of your life until you go. Like you say, to the pearly gates or wherever it's going to be. But it's going to be, I know where I'm going. But I think a vision is, your vision can change. And I think that's why it's so important when you're talking about value, is that a lot of time your vision changes. It grows. It maybe becomes bigger. It might change even direction. And most of the time, what I saw about vision in life is that we will not reach our vision in our lifetimes, because a lot of time, if we really spend time on our vision and realize how big it is, we realize that most probably our children and even our grandchildren will be running with our vision, and God will be growing it in their hearts, and it will only become bigger. But the vision is really, for me, I don't think in life personally as individuals, but also in work life, we spend enough time on vision. Because how many people in your church, in your workplace, wherever it is, know what the vision of that organization or that movement is? There's a lot of people, they need to go to a church, so they pop in. Do they like the pastor? Yes, he seems okay. Okay, I'm sticking here. Boom. What's the vision of the church? I don't know what the vision is, but you know what? I like the dominee or the pastor or the whatever, and so I'm sticking around. When he's leaving, I'm leaving, or when I have an issue with him, I'll also be out. What's the vision of your workplace? You're spending 8-9 hours a day, 5 days a week there, maybe even more. What's the vision of the place? Does the place have a vision? I have worked with so many people that are the leaders in their companies, and they don't even have a vision. And I think it's extremely important. If you need to have your own vision, like you said. And then secondly, you also need to know everywhere I'm involved in, whether it be community, faith-based, or work-based, you need to push it. If you don't know the vision, push the people and get the vision, because otherwise you're not going to know what your value is. If you don't have a vision, your value will be zero. That is, so the V was for me very important again.
I like what you're saying, Rian, because what you're also alluding to is the importance of alignment. When you talk about understanding the vision of these different places, for example, choosing the school for your children. I think that would be, my father-in-law said to me once, he said, one of the most important decisions that you will make in your life is deciding what school you put your children into. And I kind of didn't really understand when he told me, because he was telling me this when my first child was only about 6 months old. And I realized, looking back, that my children are actually going to be spending more time listening to a teacher than they are going to be listening to me. And so if I want to make a good decision, I need to choose a school that has a vision that's at least closely aligned with the vision that I have for my family.
Yes.
So this alignment is important, I think. There was something else that I wanted to just touch on, and that is when Abraham was given his vision by God. What was interesting, I'm just going to paraphrase it a bit here, if you don't mind. He took Abraham all the way to Mount Anderson, and or was it Table Mountain now? No, maybe it was Mount Everest. I don't know, but he took him to the top of a mountain. And Rian, I mean, you got to. This is crazy. He took him to the top of a mountain at night. And he said, don't look down at the view and look at your own accomplishments and what you've achieved. Just hold on a minute. Look up. And he got Abraham to look up where there was no boundaries, no limits, to look at the stars.
Yeah.
I think we've got so stuck in our ways of getting up on a Monday morning and doing what everyone else is doing. And if we're not doing what everyone else is doing, we actually feel like we have missed something and we're not part of the club.
Yes.
And we desperately want to be part of that club. And the consequence is that for 5 days of the week, we are so busy chasing our tail. And then on weekends and evenings, we're so busy being told what our vision should be because we watch a television and it's telling us what we should have as a vision, that we seldom find ourselves in a place, other than when we maybe go on holiday to the beach or to the bush or wherever else you might go, where we finally see a horizon and we see that there appears to be some kind of end in the distance. And you begin to wonder what lies beyond that line. What lies beyond that line? And only then do we begin to activate our imagination. And so I think in the cities, we are deprived of this ability. When I go out my house at night, I cannot see many stars at all. When I go out of my house at night, I only see buildings and trees. I don't get to see a horizon. And so maybe what we should be encouraging people to do is just to take a drive, get out of the city, find a place where you can see the horizon, and just spend some time looking at that horizon, because at some point it's going to engage your imagination. You're fortunate, Rian. You go running in the mountains where you are, and I'm sure when you're looking over those mountain tops, your mind is very creative.
Yeah, I won't look down next time. I look up. That will help with the fear of heights as well.
You must do it at night, though. You must do it at night.
Yeah, a night run. But then I think that the next one for me, what was also important when you spoke about abundance and living abundantly, is that, when I was at university, decades ago, I got a subject, economics 1, and my first year, my second year. Till today, I still don't know how I passed it. And then when I was doing my MBA now recently, I had economics again, but I passed it again. So I'm very happy. But the one thing they teach you there, and like you said, you when you open the paper, everything, they teach you that there is only this amount of money, of food, of resources, of whatever. And you need to work hard, fight hard to make sure that you get your bit, because if that amount is done, it's done, and that's the way we treat people. That's why we've got economy, because we've got limited resources on earth, and everybody needs to fight and make sure that they get their little bit. And that is the whole mindset. This mindset of there is not enough. There's you need to fight for what you have, and once you have it, you need to hold on to it. And once you have that mindset, then you don't have an abundance mindset, because an abundance mindset said, God has given me more than enough. Like you said, He's my source, and my source is unlimited, is unrestricted. That's one of the next words. But with abundance, it's very important. You need to make a decision, because if you just go by with what the world tells you and what we've studied at university, and me being an accountant and studying all these things, is remember, guys, there's not enough. Go and grab what you can. And then the abundance comes in when you actually start giving out what you have, because you know there's more than enough for me. So the abundance for me, if we don't make that trigger, that switch to say there's more than enough, I can actually start living an abundant life by giving out what I have. When my hands are open, I can accept so much more. When my hands are closed, and like first, I can't put anything in there. And that is what the economy and everything is teaching me. But when I live abundantly, my hands are open, and God can put so much more through my hands. And that for me, the one little story that it brought up for me is, I read a great book, by the way, Wealth, Riches and Money. And I forgot what the guy's name was. It's a fairly old book, but it's just a great insight into God's economy. And explained like this is, God has created this mountain full of snow. And the snow is melting the whole time. And this river is now running down from this mountain full of snow. And it's running through this dry country. So we have this mindset that we now decide. So the one guy says, you know what, now I'm going to build a dam. Then the dam becomes full. Then I build the next dam. And the next and the next. Later on, he doesn't know, and it's starting to overflow, and it's a mess. But he is so afraid of tomorrow that he's not going to have enough. He's just saving up the whole time. Then the other guy said, you know what? It's a river. Just let it run through. I don't care. Let it just run through. And the water just run through. You know, he's got a few things that he's planting next to the river. But about a half a kilometer from the river, nothing is happening. It's dry. Then you've got this one person that's got what I want to say tonight, has got an abundance mindset. He says, you know, I've got more than enough water staying next to this river. But I've got neighbors. I've got people that's not close to the river. I need to send them water. And he starts building a canal to them. And a canal, yeah, you know, my Afrikaans is coming through now. A canal towards them, and building dams for them, and to the other side. At the end of the day, he's got a water network, and the whole valley is lifting up, and the people can plant and provide food because there's more than enough. And he says, if God is sitting there with his 3 rivers, which one will he keep on feeding? And it's the one of the person that's feeding the rest of the valley. And that, for me, when I think about abundance, is a decision we need to make. If we don't make a decision, we will have this thing of, there's more, not enough, guys. I'm going to take what I have, and I'm going to see if I can get a little bit of yours as well, because then I know I will have enough. But I'm never at the place where my hands start getting open. And abundance is, we need to get our hands open in our country, especially in terms of things like love and acceptance and forgiveness. There's no abundance. There's just holding on to it in the world nowadays. You know, we're entitled, and I always say we are peeing. And I'm saying in a good way, but we are procrastinating. We are looking for excuses the whole day, and we are so entitled. And when we are like that, everything we have, we hold on to. And we can't have value because there's no abundance.
Yeah, Rion, I think, the one thing that you reinforced there was the concept of the source. And
Yes.
I've been thinking a lot about, and I like your fist analogy, because the world that we live in gives us this. It's like, you hear people have this term. I feel like I'm suffocating. I feel like I'm drowning in debt. There's this. Those are all feelings that you experience when you have a mentality of lack,
Yes.
and this world and the way the economy operates is all about lack. I think that in recent years there appears to have been an incredible drive globally to indebt people. because the economy, the way it's set up, cannot function unless people are living in a state of lack and a mindset of lack. When you have a mindset of abundance, all your needs are met before you even wake up in the morning. They're all met. And so that, I mean, just reinforcing that was valuable. You know, who is your source? And I think that's something that we've got to constantly remind ourselves and dig into. We've got about I don't know if, can you see Dr. Yona's comments there?
Yes.
I see that first he talked about vision drives. Do you want to read that? Can you read it on your side?
Yes, vision drives actions that produce outputs that create outcomes that eventually deliver value, which solves a unique problem. Purposeful. Yeah, I fully agree, Dr. Jonah. Vision drives your actions. Actions then becomes your outputs. Your outputs becomes your outcomes, and that delivers a value which solves a unique problem. That the unique person I am, and that you are, and that Dr. Jonah is, has been created for.
I really, you know, I love Dr. Yona. You're sitting too quietly there in Tanzania. We need to be getting your messages out to the world on a regular basis. So may this be an invitation for you to join us on a regular occasion so that we can record your wisdom. There's a time when we all walk over that horizon, and it's important that we leave some of our wisdom behind. And you've got bucket loads. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, I think the L, your value. What's interesting is that your value will increase if you live, and if you don't live, and I think you've touched on this, living your life. Living your, and going back to what Dr. Jonah said, by living your unique purpose, your unique vision, you start adding value, because as you live within your purpose, your value starts coming through, because now your gifting and your talents start making sense, because you are within, let's call it the sweet spot that God has created you for. So I like the L. I don't think we need to say a lot there, but the L is definitely, is to live your life, and by living your life, you are actually increasing your value. We want to increase our value. How to do it? Live your purpose. Live purposefully. Live every day.
Leon, as you were saying this, I just became intensely aware of how in the last few years of my life, in my country, but also globally, it seems like life is no longer valued. One person takes another life for a cell phone, or for over an argument, or something different. Life has lost its value, and I think as a individual myself tonight, I need to begin to reinforce this. When I say encourage people and affirm that they are valuable and that their life is valuable, and so is everyone else's. Sometimes we see a beggar on the side of the road, and we perceive their value to be less than ours, perhaps. We see a baby, and within their inabilities and dependency on someone else, we perhaps view them as less valuable than us. We look at somebody who's old and who needs to be cared for, and we see them as less valuable than us. And I think our tendency to value people in a negative way needs to change, and we need to see the treasure inside of someone and recognize that they are a creation of God Himself, and in that there's great value. So thanks for reminding me, because I think in today's world there's so much death and destruction that's happening. Life is important.
Yeah, and then if we jump right into unlimited or unrestricted. And I'm so happy you touched on it, because I think if we talk about living, we like to live unlimited because we don't want to be restricted by the rules. Yet when someone says, well, throw off the shackles and live unrestricted and unlimited, then we say, no, we can't because it's rules. But yet we choose which rules and when to follow it when it suits us. But for me, the abundance and unlimited goes together, because once again, if you choose to live within limits that was set up most probably not by the one who made you, by the creator, but set up by someone else, if you choose to live with it, once again, you don't choose to live in abundance. Because if I live within the limits the whole time, and the last one is exception, we're going to get there now, but if I just want to be part of the crowd and never standing out, never throwing off the shackles, never throwing off the restrictions that's stopping me from becoming abundant, then I will live a life of shortage and a life of lack, and always be thinking that, I will always be looking where the lack is and where the excuses are for me not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But if you know that you are purposeful, then, and you were made for a unique purpose, because that's the other thing about you, and you said unique. But I mean, to be unique, you need to throw off the limits. My uniqueness will mean that I need to go further on some things that you will be willing to go, Glenn, because my purpose is different. I need to get to point A, you need to get to point B. So you need to break through some walls to get to your point B. That's most probably not the same ones that I need to break through to get to point A. So for me, the unlimited or unrestricted is to throw off these restrictions, break through the walls that I need to break through. And once again, I cannot look around me for someone else that can come and do it on my behalf. It's something that I need to do. I need to decide, where did I put limits and restrictions in my life that is not from God? And once again, as you said, there are certain things. I need to love people. I need to accept people. I need to forgive people. Those are not the limits or restrictions that you must throw off. Those things you must do. But there are certain limits that I've put to myself to say, I can never be the person that God called me to be. You can. Because of my history, I've put limitations and restrictions on me. And I think what's important when you want to start adding the value, because when we're valuable, it's really not about, then significance is not about success. It's not about the value I have. It's about the value I bring. When I'm valuable, I'm significant, and I'm bringing something to the table. And I cannot bring that if I keep on limiting and restricting myself due to my history, due to the way I was brought up, due to all my issues and all my trauma that I had in my life for the first 51 years. Now I'm limited and I'm restricted. And God says, kick it off and start living within your unique purpose.
Leon, you reminded me of a story that I heard many years ago, because you were talking about walls and breaking through walls. And this particular guy that I was listening to was an American, as many motivational speakers were back in the day when I was interested in growing and developing myself. And he said, now he pointed to a wall, and he said that he was talking to one of the audience members, and he said, John, here's a wall. Everything that you want in your life, everything you desire, everything you've been born to do lies beyond this wall. All you have to do is go through the wall, and all your dreams will be fulfilled. And he said, now imagine if John steps up and he makes a mark on the wall, and he takes 3 steps back, and he runs and he headbutts the wall. And he does it a second time and a third time. And he said, eventually he's going to ask John, John, does your head hurt? And John's going to say, yes, it does. He says, John, is it painful? Yes, it's very painful. John, do you think you're going to get through this wall? and John's probably going to think, well, I'm going to persist. I'm going to get through this wall eventually. And then the speaker says, well, John, here in Texas, we do things differently. you see this brown thing here with a sign above it that says exit. It says just that brown thing in the wall has got a little silver handle, and if you apply a little bit of pressure on it, that will open, and you'll be able to step right through the wall. And he says to the audience, he says, now what if after John has been shown this opportunity to step through the wall by applying this little bit of pressure on the door handle, or stepping up to the automated doors that open automatically, and he goes back and he says, no, hang on. I've been taught, I've learned, I know it's been done for generations. And he goes back and he starts headbutting the wall. What are you going to think of John? And it's just a fascinating way. And when you were talking, I was thinking about the walls, because we see walls everywhere. But maybe there's doors, and perhaps, I love that statement that Jesus says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. And I just think that maybe these walls that we perceive, and we all have them, okay, and our beliefs and values actually create a lot of these walls. What if it just requires persistent knocking, and yes, those walls will, the Jericho effect. If I keep knocking, we'll get to a point where all resistance crumbles. Thanks for bringing that up, because I've just got this image of this guy running and headbutting the wall right next to the door. And maybe we need to seek to understand that door. Sorry, go ahead. You're going to finish off for us.
I was just, and I'm going to finish with the E now, but I just also want to say there was a story about this, the guy and the lady, real Afrikaans people from South Africa, they got married, and it was the first night that she prepared dinner for him. And then she decided on a chicken. So they put this lovely chicken in, and then she cuts the backside. She cuts almost both the thighs and the drumstick off, and she throws it away. And he's sitting like there, but what do you do that? What's going on? She said, no, that's the way we cook a chicken. He said, but that's the best. She said, no, that's the way it works. And long story short, he ate that night, but he said, he can't understand. How can this woman throw half of the chicken away? And then the story was, her great-grandmother was actually in one of the concentration camps. And when they got back to the farms, they had nothing. So all they had is a very, very small little pot to prepare the food in. So what they've done, they cut the chicken in half, and then they prepared the one, and apparently later the other one they gave to someone else, and they always end up with the front part. And that's the way the grandmother taught the great-grandmother, mother. It was passed on. No one asked the question. They just knew when we prepare a chicken, we only take half the chicken and the rest goes to someone else. They never knew why. And when they realized what it was for, they actually also could start eating the whole chicken and not only half that they were used to doing. It's almost the same then with the door. The exception for me was great, and I want to close off there with a story. People want to be seen. And as an accountant, this makes a lot of sense to me. When I look at reports, I'm a management accountant, not a financial accountant. So I'm not like an auditor or an accountant. I'm a management accountant. So we take the figures and we use it to look forward, to do budget and to do costings and to see what things cost. So the way that I look at things, I always look at the exception. And that's so important. If you have value, you are the exception. When you are the exception, people will start looking to you. And, we, like you say, we always want to have the right attention for the right reasons. So be the exception, add the value, and you will be the exception. And the other day, Lydenburg, where I'm staying in Mpumalanga in South Africa, is known for the Lydenburg masks. Because a few years ago, they got this prehistoric mask from, I don't know how many years ago, that was found here in some caves. And so we are very well known for the masks of Lydenburg. But actually, I said to the guys, we must change that, because we are wearing masks in the town and it's hiding you away. And we need to throw the masks away, and then we'll become the exception to the rule. An exception to the rule will be the one that's abundant and living life to the abundance and giving back and not only taking out.
Rian, I think we need to have more discussions like this, because this has been a really valuable session for me, and it's just amazing how much more insight you get, and so I'm looking forward to as we go forward in 2024, where we're going to start becoming valuable by giving our value away. And I think just like when you're feeling depressed, the solution is to go and encourage someone else. When you're feeling unworthy, maybe the solution is to go and make someone else feel worthy. When you're feeling like you don't have value, we need to go and help someone else realize that they are valuable. And so this has been such a useful and beneficial session. There's so many things that we've said that can be snipped out as short talks for others to share. And I would just like to encourage those of you who are listening to this recording, because we're going to share it with our members. When you're listening to the recording, you can send your questions to us. Type them in the comments field. Those will actually come through. We'll be able to see them and we'll respond to them. So we look forward to hearing your feedback. Rian, thank you so much for investing this part of your life. Your seed is going to produce an abundant harvest. It's going to trigger thoughts and ideas in other people's minds that they haven't had before. So thank you so much for joining me and sharing your insights. I know a lot of this, what you shared with us tonight, is not just stuff that you give lip service to. We could hear and see that this is stuff that you practice, that you've talked about it, that you know it, and it's been extremely valuable input. So thank you so much. We're going to play out with a short little video. You'll probably see Rian and I there on the side. And good night, everybody. Lovely to have spent this evening with you.